Get this thing kicked off. So yeah, I guess jumping on in. Thank you everybody who has signed in, joined up so far. Everybody who's watching this recording as well. This will be definitely an exciting roundtable we're going to have here. So as you're aware of joining the webinar, today this is our final entry in the Freedom to Fulfill series that Flexpoint's putting on. Love to have business solution partners co-hosting this with us. Thank you so much, guys, for your time and the expertise for sure in the space. And right there on the title slide, we're going to be discussing the future of ERPs for our firearms retailers, and it's going to be a lot of automation talk, I think, scattered throughout this presentation. So automating in the future of ERP. So yeah, definitely excited to dive on in here. And yeah, today, quick agenda. We're going to keep it. We're not going to bore you with like a lecture or anything like that. So agenda short and sweet. Quick introductions from each of our sides, from the Flexpoint team, from the Business Solution Partners team, and then we will dive right on into a good, rousing roundtable discussion. Just talking, getting the subject matter experts kind of discussing everything we're seeing in the space today. And then, like I said earlier, Q&A at the end. So we've had some more people join. So if you didn't hear me earlier, there's a Q&A section in the Zoom settings. Feel free to enter any questions you have now or as we go along, and we'll try to capture as many of those at the end. So yeah, without further ado, we can dive on in.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity to co-host with you and Flexpoint. Business Solution Partners is no stranger to the firearms industry. We've been working in this space for about 7 years now. You'll probably recognize us from the floor of NRA or NASGW. We try to get active, and this is just another one of the examples of trying to take our expertise and reflect it back into the marketplace and add some value so that we can all be on the same page and we can all work towards a better future for the firearms industry. We've got a great panel today. My name is Craig Cook. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Business Solution Partners. I'll be your moderator today. You met Mike already from Flexpoint, Senior Solution Architect. He's my co-host today. And in a little bit, we're going to introduce our subject matter experts, Tyler, Hussein, and Zach from Business Solution Partners. And we're going to have a really casual conversation around the technology stack that's kind of running the American firearms industry today. Both of our companies have made a pretty significant investment and commitment to the American firearms industry. We are heavily involved in education and advocacy as well. So we really kind of happy to have this opportunity to speak to our constituents and our audience and, spread some knowledge and some joy because there's one thing that I've learned in business is that we all need some help from time to time. We all need somebody to lean on. And I'll tell you, these guys that we've got lined up for this presentation today, some of the best in the business in terms of their commitment, their knowledge, their expertise. So excited to get going. I'm going to throw it back to Mike for a sec. He's just going to quickly introduce Flexpoint and their solution. And then we'll introduce BSP real quick, and then we'll dive in. All right, Mike, here you go.
Thank you, Craig. No, that's a solid intro. It got me pumped up, ready to go here. So if you haven't heard of Flexpoint before, I wanted to just have this quick slide again, just telling you what we're all about. We are an e-commerce automation platform. So that is our subject matter expertise on all things e-commerce and automation in that space, right? Like Craig mentioned, a huge investment in the 2A industry. I think we went to SHOT Show maybe 3 years ago and saw so much of a need in this space, especially for good e-commerce automation and just knowledge transfer and all that good stuff. It's something that we have doubled, tripled down on. So yeah, really, really happy to be a part of this and show you guys what we're all about. So what Flexpoint is striving to do is a few things for our online firearms retailers, right? We are looking to automate your tech stack and connect your tech stack as best we can through first-class integrations, right? And we'll get into that throughout the presentation. But the kind of core tenets that Flexpoint is looking to perform and automate for our firearms retailers are getting you access to dropship vendors inventory alongside your own inventory, right? We know so many of you guys have brick and mortars that have good inventory that can be used to fulfill e-commerce. We also know that a lot of people are trying to work with dropship distributors or looking to scale through adding inventory and order fulfillment through dropship distributors. So the first thing that we're looking to do is get inventory reconciliation and inventory automation coming from any place where your goods can be warehoused, whether that's a distributor, whether that's your own internal warehouse or a brick and mortar location, right? And then we are doing some multi-channel e-commerce management, right? So listing management in terms of being able to take data from all of those various warehouses and sync available inventory, pricing, obviously quantity, up with the plenty of pre-built integrations for sales channels in terms of gun broker, having one of the better gun broker integrations that we've been, I was going to say, developed maybe 4 years ago, maybe five, and then just a bunch of improvements from there. And then tried and true e-commerce integrations with your BigCommerce, Magento, your storefront if you're using a storefront as well. So yeah, everything we're looking to do from the inventory and listing automation side, help you manage all of those listings on the sales channels. But then also part of what Flexpoint's, I'd like to say, bread and butter is order and FFL automation and routing. So taking orders from those sales channels, bringing them into a centralized location so that we can take advantage of some distributed order routing, determining what scenarios my warehouse or my brick and mortar should get an order versus a drop ship vendor, but also getting the FFL details needed, which we all know is a huge topic. I'm sure that'll come up a few times here, but staying compliant, getting FFL information, license details, imagery, PDFs of the actual license from your sales channels, and syncing that all the way downstream to your bound book, if it's your own inventory, or out to your distributors in order to get orders placed with them, right? And then without further ado, the big topic of today is those ERP syncs. NetSuite is by far our most used ERP integration. We've spent a ton of time in development work making sure that we can automate, really everything you should need for an e-commerce lifecycle working with an ERP. So, taking all the data that we're transmitting inventory-wise, order-wise, FFL-wise, and also making sure that we orchestrate and automate everything we need to send over to your ERP or to your NetSuite instance along the way. So that's the quick elevator pitch. We'll definitely dive more into what we're doing throughout the presentation, but I figure I'll stop there and give the BSP guys a chance to speak.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. It's tough to do 30,000 foot when our technology solutions are complex, but I think that was a pretty good summation
I
of
try.
what
I end up
Flexpoint has
talking
to
fast
offer.
every time, but that's what it is.
All right. Well, now it's my pleasure to introduce from Team BSP, Brian Flynn, recently promoted to the Sales Operations Manager channel, has dedicated a ton of his time at BSP to the firearms space. Probably a really recognizable face if you've been out to SHOT Show, NASGW, or any of the other kind of watering hole events around the industry. So, Brian, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about BSP and our firearms practice?
Absolutely. So at Business Solution Partners, we are an award-winning NetSuite solution provider and NetSuite Alliance partner. And our staff of financial and operational experts are certified to support you. We're reimagining the ERP space and transforming the way businesses manage their software. So we solve for complex manufacturing and distribution requirements, and we work in highly regulated industries where compliance is key. We build custom solutions for individuals as well as whole businesses. So, as Craig mentioned, BSP has been dedicated to the firearms space for about 7 years now. We've worked with probably about 3 dozen companies in the firearms industry. A few months back, we hosted the NetSuite users group at SHOT Show with the team at Flexpoint and a couple of other partners. And we've also developed the American Firearms edition of Oracle NetSuite, which combines ERP and ATF compliance requirements. And we can integrate with your existing bound books. So some of the features of our solution in the American Firearms edition of Oracle NetSuite include areas like live ATF Easy Check, book to physical inventory synchronization, forced compliant entry, NFA and FFL fulfillment control, and integrated auto auditing.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So we got a lot of good IP and technology at BSP, kind of driving our solutions built on top of NetSuite. As Brian kind of alluded to earlier, that building solutions for individual customers or whole industries, we started with our first firearms customer. We created some bespoke functionality needed to solve some of the particular issues around the firearms industry, and then it kind of grew from there. And once that first kind of customer came in the door, it opened up the door to the larger firearms industry, and we've been really happy operating in this space and supporting the two-way movement. So We're going to shift our gears now. We're going to move to our roundtable discussion. I'm actually going to stop my screen share, and we're going to make the panelists front and center for our presentation. And as we get into it, everybody's going to kind of introduce themselves as we go. We're not going to do another 10 minutes of introductions now, but we're going to get right into our discussion around the future of the firearms industry. So the first question that I have for the panelists, if I can find my notes because funny screen shares and Zoom and all that. Okay, so the first question I have for our panelists is, let's set the stage for ERP. Number one, let's define it a little bit. What is enterprise resource planning, right? But also, let's talk about what does a modern ERP look like today, right? I mean, I think everybody in attendance is in agreement that technology is moving very quickly, and what we were doing 3 to 5 years ago might be completely different than what we're doing today. So I'm going to open up the panel today and start with Zach from Team BSP. Zach is a solution architect. Zach is a solution consultant working with our firearms clients to deploy our solutions. And Zach, what's your opinion about kind of the difference between what was going on a couple of years ago and what is today? And if you could help kind of define ERP for our audience, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So my name's Zach Carlson, and I've been in the firearms industry for 15 plus years before coming into consulting. And in that time, back in the day, I would say, we had a lot more on-prem systems and custom built solutions because the firearms industry kind of has that mentality a bit about paranoia about things being taken away from us because it's kind of a, I don't want to say taboo, but there's a stigma around it, and some of these solutions that you can come to rely on can be taken away from you. And so it used to be that we would rely a lot more on on-prem solutions, and even in my experience, we had full custom built solutions that were a bear to manage, and it was all on-prem, and it was sometimes a nightmare. And we had developers on staff that were bandwidth limited. You could have all the features that you wanted to build, but you're limited because of how many things that the bandwidth of a few developers that you wanted to hire full time could do. And so, in my experience, I mean, that's how I came to consulting, is because I actually used BSP as our company's implementation team, and we went to NetSuite. And one of the biggest selling points was, with a modern ERP system, you have this kind of plug and play integration scheme where you can have the core ERP system, which is how you run your business, where it has your financials and everything. But then you can plug in other systems, and there's other, the other thing is, business is business for everybody. And that's the biggest thing I've learned about doing this work, is every company I talk to feels like the problems that they run into are uniquely theirs, and that they've made all these mistakes, but every company has these same mistakes. And I think people take comfort in that in a weird way. But so it's nice that there's companies out there like us that can specialize in these integrations, to like the bound book integration, which is huge, because that's a huge mental burden for this industry to have those ATF compliance books handled, because that is your lifeline to business. Without an FFL, you are out of business, and your company can no longer exist in this industry. So having that system in place, rock solid, and it just works, that is one thing off of your mind, and you can just keep moving on to things that really matter, like sales and fulfillment and everything. And so a modern ERP where you don't have to have it on-prem and you're only limited by the bandwidth of internal people working on it, you can have the core and plugging in these systems and modules and pick the best of breed for all of these plugins. And that was a game changer for us. And honestly, that's why I went into consulting, is because I can help more companies achieve this nirvana by doing this and get everybody elevated to this level. And it's amazing.
Awesome. That's a lot of really good information in there. But one of the gems that I kind of plucked out was this concept of best-in-class software, right? When you're locked into custom-coded or legacy systems, you're not taking advantage of the modern SaaS ecosystem, right? There's not just ERP publishers out there, but there's companies like Flexpoint who are creating bespoke, fantastic solutions that solve for niche problems. But you can't integrate with those if you're not on a modern cloud-based SaaS platform, right? So either that or the integration itself becomes a tremendous custom lift, and you're shouldering the full burden of that cost, right?
Yeah, when Mike gave us the demo of the whole FlexPoint system, I was very envious of being out of the industry now and not being able to actually utilize it in my business because it would have been a game changer for me back then.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I mean, and that's it's what we're preaching all the time, where we see, especially with, again, we're e-commerce focused at FlexPoint, especially with, again, what makes a modern ERP to me today is being able to work with my e-commerce platform where 5, 10 years ago that was not nearly as important. And again, with that, that's where that best in breed really, really resonates to me of, hey, I don't feel like I am stuck. I can't, headless is the buzzword we hear a lot now of like, hey, I could pluck one piece out. BigCommerce is perfect for me, but I want to go to another sales channel as well. Having that kind of flexibility to pick and choose, what systems you're integrating with, and all of that is nice to say, but you need rock solid integrations to actually make it happen. So I think that is what a big piece of what we're trying to do is say, hey, yeah, we're not recommending using in all cases an all-in-one system that does everything for you because that can be really hard to find, what people are best at. But instead, let's go ahead and pick and choose, for each little tiny piece of the tech stack, what would be the best solution there. So yeah, and having those integrations to make it feel like, while it is a couple systems, make it feel like it's one cohesive system. I think that's what we're all striving for sure.
Agreed. At this point, I'd like to bring in Hussein Zadei. Hussein is the Chief Solution Architect for Business Solution Partners, and the kind of brains behind our entire integration. Really took the American firearm industry under his wing and has put a lot of his time and effort into crafting these solutions and curating them as well. So, Hussein,
Everyone.
as we talk about sort of modern ERP, the big buzzword today is AI. So I'm wondering kind of what's going on in the AI space in terms of ERP and how are companies like in the American firearms industry kind of taking advantage of this new space now that we've talked about, the ability to get all these integrations and all of this data together. AI is now a layer that's kind of changing the game, right? So could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So, first of all, we started with this firearms bundle back in 2023, or a little bit before this whole chat GPT and generative AI came into place. Um, and we had built out the integration to the bound books with the consideration that, well, we were working with a cloud-based ERP and electronic bound book is the future. So a lot of companies working in the firearms space, definitely want this type of a solution. With AI coming onto the scene, it increases that productivity and the what I would call advanced level of insights and the intelligence that otherwise is hard to gain just by looking at systems in isolation. For example, we can use AI today to reconcile serial numbers across ERP, bound book, point of sale, e-commerce solution, and it gives a very quick review of how many serial numbers or how many firearms are in the ERP, but let's say they're not in the bound book yet, or but they're not in the point of sale. So things that help you with integration or help you reconcile the systems are much, much easier to do today, right? AI is also advancing the ERP system, especially with the generative AI and the conversational AI that takes the lead. We have so many use cases that we can create and build out for the customers that were not that easily possible before, right? Flexpoint, for example, has this intelligent product listing and category mapping. So they can analyze product details like titles, descriptions, categories, UPCs, and suggest more accurate gun broker categories, right? In NetSuite ERP side, we can use AI to predict demand spikes across hunting seasons, election years, legislative announcements, holiday periods, and we can adjust the stock levels accordingly. Um, we can also do things like dynamic order routing. So when a customer places an order, AI can automatically determine the best fulfillment path. Should it be shipped to a retailer's own, or should it ship from a retailer's own warehouse? Or can it be drop shipped from a distributor like RSR or Sports South, right? So a lot of these things, which, would require good amount of work before, now are fairly easily possible through the AI advancements that we are seeing today. Um,
Yeah, that's
I would
awesome. And
like
I think
I
one
would
of the
like to
things that
go
sorry, go
one more topic because I know I'm gonna get questions on this.
ahead.
Um, AI agents.
Mm.
AI agents has been a big talk after Gen AI and conversational AI. So AI agents, if you guys don't know these are applications that are built using large language models that can run by themselves, autonomous, and they can not just use LLM to infer or deduce specific information, but they can also react and they can make decisions and they can make changes. Okay, so we also are working with AI agents on the NetSuite side to automate a lot of the ERP related processes downstream, so it makes your operation more streamlined. Back
Awesome.
to
I'm,
you.
I'm just going to make a recommendation here for everybody who's dabbling in AI. Don't mess with the right stuff yet, right? Do the read stuff right now, but have an expert like Hussein kind of guiding you on the overwriting your critical data with automation, right? Cool. Yeah, it's a great landscape, and I think we touched on it a little bit before that there's some trepidation, not just in the firearms industry, but a lot of kind of legacy industries in America with maybe an older generation of ownership that is a little trepidatious and not quite sure of cloud, AI. Where does my data? What is the security? We've come a tremendous way, and I think there's more trust today. But we still part of what we're doing here today is to kind of build that trust and to ensure people that not only are these the right solutions, you have the security behind them, but it's going to kind of open a world up to you. So and the other comment I'll make on Hussein's comment about AI is the beautiful thing about Flexpoint, BSP, our development is that we're reacting to these new avenues and these new channels, right? So, the American Firearms Industry edition of Oracle NetSuite is not a static thing. It is evolving and it has a roadmap. And I'm sure Flexpoint is the same way. Is we're trying to solve not just for today, but for tomorrow as well. So Hussein has taken a big lead in running that, and we appreciate that, Hussein.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to shift gears. We haven't heard from Tyler yet. I think it's time for his voice. Tyler, you're a solution architect, which means you're kind of there in the selection process while somebody is evaluating going from what they currently have to, as Zach put it, maybe the nirvana of a modern system, right? I think you're probably pretty well poised to answer the question, like, what are the most common signs that a firearms retailer or a manufacturer or distributor has kind of outgrown their current systems, be it Excel or QuickBooks or a homegrown system, and it's really time for them to kind of professionalize their approach with a SaaS ERP application.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So my background is in engineering, which led me into manufacturing, so I could spend some time there. Then went to the military for a bit, and for the past few years now have been doing this type of work, helping companies understand where they're at now, where they want to be, and how can we get there. Sometimes it's phased, sometimes it's a quick transition. So what I see from a lot of these companies is that they are kind of in one, two places. That they could be on a software now that is sunsetting or becoming very difficult to support. Maybe the custom work that Zach was talking about was done 20 years ago, and the people who have the keys to that are retiring. And it's time to move on to something new. coupled with we're falling behind, and they can feel themselves falling behind. You see advertisements, and you're talking to your other your sister companies or the vendors that you're dealing with, and they're on the new software. So I'm seeing a lot of that where they can't maintain their current systems. Their current systems are being sunsetted, or they're scaling and they're growing. And this is the ones we really love, right? They're scaling, they're growing, and manual tasks are becoming quite redundant and taking up a lot of time. They're faced with, hey, we're not really processing many more of these, but I'm having to hire a new person just to do this manual redundant task. When if these two systems could be integrated in a bi-directional way, I don't have to make another headcount hire. I can reduce that labor load on my current employees and have them doing something to help grow the business further. So practical things are like if you're printing a lot of documents to track, if you're using Excel and Sharpies and highlighters to track things, you're picking up the phone or emailing to get status updates when you have that feeling of, man, I wish I could just go check it right now. I wish that status was updated automatically. And then when customization that you're wanting to do, new things that you're wanting to do, just feel a little bit out of sight, and you might feel like you're throwing too much money into something that you know you're going to have to replace anyway. Eventually, it's going to have to happen. So those are the pains I'm seeing. The pains of maintaining and the pains of growth in those practical ways are typically what the customers are saying that I'm talking to.
Great, great. Mike, you have an opinion on this topic as well?
For sure. I mean, I'm in the same role there as Tyler, as a solutions architect at Flexpoint. So, a similar area where I'm injected to try to kind of figure out these pain points. A lot of the times it is what we hear, and kind of what screams to me as probably outgrown the current processes is, I almost hate to hear this where somebody says, hey, like, I'm almost afraid of scaling. I'm afraid of adding more vendors to get more access to inventory and more orders because of what it's going to do to my ERP downstream. The work required to, add some new functionality, like I said, adding vendors, maybe adding a different sales channel to merchandise your products on. If you're ever avoiding doing that work because of your current ERP setup, I feel like that is just a big screaming, hey, let's look into ways to change how I'm working with my ERP. Maybe it's a new ERP, maybe it's updating the processes in my existing. But when we hear somebody say something like, hey, I'm afraid of getting more order volume in because of, if somebody, my ERP developer put something in place 5 years ago and I have no idea what's going to happen if I start injecting more orders in here. Those are the type of things that we say, oh man, we got to get past that. We really want to start scaling and using the ERP as a resource to do that, right? One of the lines I use sometimes on the calls, and I've literally heard this, is just like, one of these other areas that screams to me like, hey, maybe outgrowing some of those modern processes is if there's somebody that is manually doing all ERP entry. It's always a Pam from accounting is what I always hear. Like, oh man, Pam from accounting has to go in there, and maybe it's a slightly different name, but has to go in there and move the NetSuite sales order to a new status now that I've gotten my fulfillment records in place. Pam from accounting has to go create item records manually one by one or through spreadsheet uploads. Where again, if there's manual processes, taking it to the firearm space, FFL compliance, right? Automation to me is not just a way to get things moved quickly, it's to make it done accurately and in the same manner every single time. If Pam from accounting misses something on a copy and paste of FFL information from the sales channel down to the bound book, that's trouble, right? ATF comes and does an audit, we're in trouble. So those are the two that probably resonate the most with me. It's like super manual processes inside of my current ERP, or again, just not wanting to rock the boat because of and scale because of things that were set up previously.
Awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even pressure from the inside of the company that lets you know that it's time to move. Sometimes it's external pressures because, like one of the things that prompted my last company to push into NetSuite was some of our largest customers wanted us to go to EDI, and because they were sick of submitting purchase orders to us with PDFs and then having us manually enter those PDF, those sales orders, and then having to give status updates back and forth manually. Where and then the burden of implementing EDI into an on-prem homegrown system was a big ask, and so going to something like NetSuite where there's EDI solutions that are established and kind of plug and play, that kind of helps make that decision as well. And to Mike's point about the Pam entering in transactions, you would not believe how many customers I deal with that like just simply people are still copying and pasting tracking numbers manually on everything on documents today. And it boggles my mind because in NetSuite, it's all automatic for you. And it's the simple things that people just, it's the simple niceties. It's, like getting a nice new car and you just like the things you take for granted when you have a nice car and then you bring a new person in and they see those little luxuries. It's rewarding.
For sure. It's almost hard to like quantify like how much, what could those resources be doing? We're not advocating for getting rid of any of our resources, but what could they be doing if they weren't doing all of that manual work? It's almost hard to that opportunity cost to wrap your brain around it.
Yep.
Correct. Let me show a specific slide, which I think if you guys can see this.
We
Coming.
can't yet. Now we
There
can.
it is.
Okay. So what Zach was saying was that there's a lot of processes that the firearms industry or firearms, specific ERP needs to handle. And quite a bit of it is tied to the bound book. What we do is we provide that seamless integration plus processes and validation for FFLs, and it ties right into your process. So you don't have to go and manually update the bound book or write serial numbers at hand or highlight specific items if they are NFA items and they have to be handled differently. So we will take care of ERP plus the compliance aspect of it and make sure the processes are as seamless as possible. And it
And that's
works
just something that wasn't available,
right.
five years ago, right? Like our partners at Orchid and some of the other companies introduced the electronic bound book, and that's a relatively new, innovation for the industry, right? And it's taken time to propagate, and then past the invention of the electronic bound book, now you've got to get it integrated with your systems, and you've got to get automation. So we're at a really interesting place now with compliance in the industry, where we're speaking of like 3 to 5 years ago versus today. We're light years ahead of where we were, and I think the time that our employees are getting back to concentrate on the things that matter versus the administrative burden is a game changer, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we've now met all of our panelists, and I'm going to give them a break to take a drink of water and refresh their brains for our next session. We're going to get a little bit more technical and dive in, but I also wanted to bring in the voice of the customer. And this past year at NRA, we were fortunate to host Griffin Armament for a little private dinner testimonial video with a private chef, and it was a really, really nice event. We got everybody kind of lubricated and loose, and we had a really great conversation. So this is just a snippet of a larger series of 6 videos and then a full format like television production that we did in this space. If you're interested in watching the full thing, get in touch with us. We're happy to share it with you. But I'm just going to take the next 5 minutes and just hear from some of the customers and also some of our partners in the space. Oh, and I got to share my sound. Otherwise, that is not going to work. Oh, why is it telling me I can't share sound?
Take a look here.
Might have a little housekeeping option.
Yeah, bear with us, everybody. I'm going to update the settings here.
Sorry about that. Worst comes to worst, we can go on to the next question and then come back to this. But let's see if we can solve it in 30 seconds.
Try now, Greg.
Not getting share sound.
No.
All right, you know what? Let's call an audible. We'll come back to this. And we're going to move on to the next question, which is, oh, I got to get my screen share off. There we go. All right, so diving back into the content, let's shift gears and talk to Tyler again. You already alluded to kind of processes breaking down, right?
Yeah.
Let's dive a little deeper into that. Like, where do you commonly see the processes breaking down for firearms in both e-commerce and kind of general processes? And we're certainly going to get Mike's opinion on this one as well. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the main one for us that we see is inventory reconciliation between the two. It can be so important to make sure that what your customers may be seeing on the website, what they're interacting with, is accurate, both in terms of it's in stock, it's not in stock. That can make buying decisions for them, but also on the back end for you to understand where you're getting it from, what costs that might have introduced there. So in terms of physical inventory, there's that, but then there's also, is our inventory being matched between our inventory system and our bound book? And is that accurate? So if an audit does come, we are good to go and straight away. And so when those things are manual, it takes time for someone to go in and make those changes and make those adjustments. And we see this breakdown all the time. Hey, yeah, I was going to get to that. I went out to lunch. I came back. I got 4 out of the 5 of them done. I made myself a note to get the other one done. And the lack of process there, that breakdown can lead to errors that later on, process wise, if you're not getting audited, it may not be a huge deal, but they stack and stack and stack, and they continue to have effects that step on top of each other, right? The order that I thought was going to be fulfilled now because I was on the phone with someone because my inventory I thought was correct. Now I got to call them back, and it's taking more time to correct an error that happened from something simple, that automation or just a streamlined process that two systems or multiple systems that are on kind of the same playing field allow you to do together. A lot of that is going on with customers.
Craig, I would like to add one other point. I know
Yeah.
Tyler was mentioning the inventory reconciliation, but especially for firearms, if you're a manufacturer, and Zach, you can talk on this as well. You are also have to do change in form type updates to the bound book, meaning you have a lower receiver coming in, and then that receiver gets turned into a rifle or a frame turns into a pistol. If your inventory is not correct and serial numbers are not matching, that initial issue is going to cascade and it's going to have problem downstream. You won't be able to catch that up easily. So having a bound book that's integrated and that, gets all the updates from the ERP system live or near real time, that's almost critical at this point.
I don't think it's almost critical. It's critical. I mean, I started in this business when we started with paper books, and I can't even fathom doing that now with literally pen and paper. And doing it now with automation, it's kind of table stakes at this point. And if you're not running your business with an automated solution like this, you're behind at this point.
All right, well, guess what? We got our technological blip taken care of. So thank you for taking the audible, guys, and moving on to that next question. Appreciate it. But now let's go back and do this voice of the customer thing one more time. Again, just to set the stage, this was pre-NRA 2025. So this was a year ago already. Yeah, this is Griffin Armament, Work Advisors at BSP, having a lovely dinner and talking about the firearms industry. So here we go. The goal of our dinner today is, number one, to say thank you to the Griffin Armament team for being one of the first adopters of the Orchid to NetSuite integration from Business Solution Partners. What was life like before technology?
I don't think you realize how much you can amplify your workforce by automating kind of the mundane tasks and letting those people focus on more of the tasks that give your company like life.
The environment prior to electronic bound book or other technology was filled with risk.
Yeah, so essentially a bound book is used to categorize and track serial numbers, dispositions, as well as where the item is eventually going.
I can't tell you how many times we've seen processes that just aren't, up to speed. It's impacted their business so much.
I think without the proper platform, that could ultimately destroy a business platform if technology isn't integrated.
You're solely reliant upon training, human behavior, making sure that the right people do the right thing every time.
It's almost impossible to scale when so much time is being spent on outdated processes. Right? So now you get a modern ERP system, a modern integrated bound book, and it's almost like it's off to the races.
Switching systems that you're operating on for the majority of your company is stressful and time consuming, and it takes a lot of work to get there. But I think because you put in the work in that 3-6 month span to switch, and then from there you have tools to grow larger than you ever could have without switching.
But BSP is really, put forth a concerted effort to develop a product that is beyond just an integration. It includes so many other things that help keep our industry safe.
With integration of electronic bound books, it has led to less errors, less user error. It's been a lot easier to maintain compliance across the board.
On a personal level, I really appreciate I almost like to describe it that there's no fluff. It's just, you care about the business, I care about the business. Let's both work really hard to advance the business.
I think when you work for an organization where it has that mentality, be it family owned or not, where it comes from the top down, it is a game changer.
Seeing how Griffin was in 2021 comparatively to now, headquarters is twice as big, staff is 3 times as large. We're retaining a lot more people. It's a great environment.
It kind of set us up with a really robust system that all communicates reliably with each other, and just made that influx of sales go much smoother because we had a really slick process.
And changes the relationship between sales and operations.
Better sales volume, better media output. I mean, you name it. Time allocation is definitely a big thing of that.
Having those two systems, the inventory system and the bound book, communicate with each other, I would say it sped up our compliance department by 30% without adding any new personnel.
With predictive sales and with forecasting, I can integrate velocity of sales. I can integrate months, 6 months, quarterly. I can actively gauge those forecasts with NetSuite. How many units we're creating per month, per quarter. All that data adds up, and it's very critical.
ERP is important, particularly because of how data is managed and entered, right? So if you got an organization that's entering regulated data into one system and then has to enter the same regulated data into another system, there's a high likelihood of error. But that's the benefit of working, with somebody like BSP, because they know the industry now, they know you guys inside and out, and they can respond quickly.
If we have a problem with one of those systems, we can get BSP on the phone and likely have it fixed within an hour.
I see my dealers using NetSuite. I see my dealers integrating plugins using this pretty much the same software we're using for their stores. And to see that, that's a great reflection of y'all.
I don't think it would have been possible without Orchid and without BSP and NetSuite working together to kind of drive us there. You guys have really been the foundation of where this company's going, because where we're at now is miles ahead where we were in the past.
All right, so a little bit of the voice of the customer there to kind of add to the conversation. The team at Griffin, tremendous partners, not only helping us, us helping them, but helping us to develop these solutions for the greater industry and kind of help guide us along the way. So one of the oldest suppressor manufacturers in the country, great partners, great customers, and we really appreciated them taking part in that. So raise your hand if you want to come to our next Lunch and Learn. Huh?
I'm in. That was the first time I had seen that, and blown away. Some of those statements, the 30% time savings. That's what we're really talking about here. It's really cool to see right from their mouth. And I would love to get a party with you guys. That looks
All right. Well, let's keep ourselves rolling. I'm gonna, Mike, since you offered to party with us, I'm gonna send the next question over to you. Um, let's talk about, even if we're not moving into new systems, even if we're not kind of completely changing, like there's got to be some high impact workflows that we can kind of prioritize or concentrate on now to set ourselves up to the future or to take advantage of the modern platforms that we're using. So, what are the highest impact workflows that firearms retailers can prioritize to kind of see the biggest impact?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, from my point of view, like we talk to a ton of people that whether they are a Griffin and they're manufacturing themselves, whether there's a straight retailer or a dealer, at the end of the day, like we view this industry especially as the more the merrier, right? If I'm selling on one sales channel, why not do that across multiple channels to get my stuff out there? If I'm working with my own inventory or maybe one vendor's inventory, why don't I expand that, right? Why don't I work with some of the dropship vendors just to give me some fallback inventory? So to me, prioritizing workflows that help add to your available inventory as well as available warehouses for ordering, and really I am talking about adding some vendors to the tech stack and even if it's not your primary place you're pulling inventory from, a place for fallback inventory, a place for getting the slow moving inventory kind of off the shelves. Hussein was talking about, which I think is awesome. Some of the AI tools you guys have for like looking at that seasonality spikes, looking at election and when orders are going to spike, when inventory requests are going to spike. That's got my brain turning there, like how we could really integrate that and look at, okay, cool, during certain times of the year, I know I don't need to keep this expensive merchandise in my warehouse or maybe in my brick and mortar. I can quickly get it from a dropship distributor or a network of distributors across the United States, right? Maybe I want that sent directly to me for restocking. Maybe I do want to drop ship it out to that end customer. So there's a lot that goes into that. I won't spend the whole time talking about it, but things like Tyler was talking about for, hey, if I'm adding dropship, I'm talking about volume, volume, volume here, volume of inventory, volume of orders, volume of the sales channels I'm working with. So what you need in your ERP is a way to handle that volume. I cannot add inventory records for the millions of SKUs that my distributors carry manually into NetSuite. I need an automation system to do that accurately, to make sure it connects with the bound book if I need it to. And again, just a way to actually see my inventory, merchandise it before picking and choosing what I want to get up to my sales channel. So again, that's just a way to handle the volume that comes with adding these dropship inventory. But then also downstream, FFL, we're going to mention it again, FFL and order routing, where a lot of these scenarios, if I'm doing drop shipping, maybe I don't need to add the FFL details to my bound book. ATF isn't coming for me. I'm sending it to a vendor. But in order to get my order placed with the vendor, I'm pulling from the same inventory that a lot of my competitors are, right? I need to be first in, first out. If I get that order my vendor with the required data they need, and the required data is FFL transfer location information, obviously if it is a firearm, a PDF copy of the FFL license, and anything else my distributor might require for their bound book, I have to have that. I don't want to manually go track it down. I want to automate it from point A to point C. Maybe there's a point B, a Flxpoint in between. But that's something where all of those with the increased volume of inventory and orders, it is just not tenable to try to keep up and do it manually. So that's where we're talking about scaling with automation, scaling with vendors really comes into play. So that's where my head goes to with some of those, highest impact workflows.
Mike, I have one other option or suggestion for you. This has come up a few times in my discussions with our clients or prospects. So fraud detection and anomaly flagging.
Yeah.
For example, AI can monitor transaction patterns across e-commerce channels to identify suspicious purchasing behavior,
Sure.
like bulk orders or regulated items, mismatched shipping and billing addresses in restricted states like California, or patterns that suggest straw purchases. So the added layer of compliance protection goes beyond, what manual review can catch at scale, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, we're seeing it all the time. There's more and more of those compliance checks happening either at the time of checkout, or maybe downstream of, again, before it gets to NetSuite, let me do one last check to make sure I don't want to lose a sale and slow down, the checkout process, but my downstream system might need it. So yeah, I think we're seeing so much more of that. And again, it's like any industry needs to have fraud prevention, but this industry in particular, in the two-way space, there's just so much more that goes into it.
Absolutely.
There is making sure I have every piece of data that is required to move it on to the next step. Yeah, that's a great call out.
There's a little nugget in this conversation that I want to break apart and examine, and that's risk, right? It was alluded to in the conversation in the video. We spoke a little bit about it before. It was a big kind of topic in this last session here. Ty, I'd like to come over to you and being in that seat where you're there selecting, helping the user select, how much does risk kind of play into the decision-making process? And can you kind of put risk on a scale, like before ERP, before modern systems, like how risky, and then like what's the mitigation of a modern system? Like how is it reducing risk?
We've spoken to a lot of the manual risks. Our people in our companies are what make our companies, and it's what drives growth. And those relationships that you have with one another and with your vendors and customers are ultimately important. We're also the same people who are going to fat finger a key and make an error, right? Like that's also true. We've all done it. So when you are sitting in an environment where we haven't taken steps forward to eliminate that type of risk, it can very quickly outweigh the risk of going to a new system. We've mentioned it before. Going to a new system is not an easy process. You're changing sometimes a little bit of culture at your company. You're changing some of your processes as well. But the ultimate goal is to get to a new place where I don't have to worry. Zach said it earlier. I don't have to worry about my bound book being accurate because it's being done for me. And it's being done with a set of rules that I know are correct with the correct restraints. So the small risk of making that change far outweighs the risk that you're living in on a day-to-day basis and that you're probably dealing with on the same time interval as well.
I mean, ATF inspections are on the rise. Legislation is changing daily. It's hard to keep up. When you have partners, technology partners, that are doing some of that maintenance, right? And ensuring that, hey, as long as you're using our systems, you're staying compliant. I think that's a huge weight off the shoulder of an owner or an operator, right?
Yeah, I can speak to that actually, because we with our old homegrown system that we used to use back in the day, we built that FFL system. That it was electronic books too, but we didn't have all the checks and balances that like an ORCID system does. That because we didn't even think about it, like it didn't even come to mind. And we survived our audits then, but when we went to NetSuite and ORCID, the self audits were great and how it does it, and just simple things like the ATF traces, because you get traces almost every day from the ATF, and the ORCID integration or the integrated ORCID trace exports that you can provide clean exports based on just serial number traces, automated right to the back to the ATF is fantastic like that. And when we did have multiple audits once we went with ORCID and NetSuite, and we survived them with flying colors, and the agents were very impressed. And the stress level that came off of our shoulders, knowing that we had a solid system in place, was invaluable.
It's again hard
One
to
last
quantify,
one
but
from
that peace of mind,
Yes.
you beat that. Yeah.
Ty, one last point.
One last thought is a little differently is, as you've seen the software grow around you, it also need to assume your competitors have taken advantage of it as well, right? So the inherent risk that comes with not keeping up with the pace means that someone else has an advantage over you that you may not even be aware of yet. And so at least pursuing and understanding what's out there is going to be important.
Very salient point, and a good one to wrap us up with. I have like 35 other questions for you guys. I know I could sit here all day and talk about this. So since we are running out of time, we didn't even get to Q&A. Number one, I'm going to ask, can everybody hang out for a few minutes extra and see if we have any questions from our audience? Awesome.
Yeah,
Number two, let's do this again sometime in the near future. I think this was a fantastic conversation. Really enjoyed working with Flexpoint on this. So on behalf of BSP and Flexpoint, Mike and myself, thank you for joining us. Thanks to Zach, Hussein, Tyler. Thank you to Brian. And we're actually going to introduce one more name from BSP. We got a large staff working in the firearms industry here at BSP. A couple of little reminders. Number one, BSP, NetSuite, and Flexpoint are committed to supporting the firearms industry. You can see us at these different events. We are NRA members, we're NASGW members, we work with the Firearm Industry Conference, NSSF. We're doing educational webinars, we're doing all sorts of stuff in this business to try to prop us all up, raise all ships together. We're in this together, and we are here to support you. And finally, I'll introduce one other team member on our side. This is Anthony Meshnick. He is our account executive. If you have any questions about Oracle NetSuite, the American Firearms edition of Oracle NetSuite, BSP, our services, our managed services, anything having to do with ERP and technology, give us a call. Anything having to do with where Flexpoint lies in their wheelhouse with e-commerce and fulfillment, talk to Mike.
Yeah, you know where to find me. It'll be all over the email reminders we're sending out here, and you can reach out to me directly at the email address there, or just go to our website, book a call. We'll get on the horn with you right away to talk about the solution. So yeah, it's been great working with you as well, Greg.
Awesome. Well, we hit it. We hit the top of the hour. We got through like a third of the questions that we had queued up, but I thought this was a rousing conversation. And again, looking forward to taking it further. Just want to bring everybody's attention to the Q&A function in Zoom. If you have a question, you might have to hit the More button, the three little dots, to find your Q&A. It depends on how you have your interface set up, but that Q&A is the perfect place to ask us a question right now. We're going to hang out for just a few more minutes to see if any of those questions come in. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Looking forward. This is the last in the series of Freedom to Fulfill.
I think we ended it strong for sure. It was, like you said, really good.
I'm sure, Mike, we're gonna do another something in the near future together, because this was a great event.
Please, agreed. If I had to make a suggestion, let's do a private chef dinner for our next webinar. That'd be great.
Or let's do it in person at wherever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, there you go.
Hussein's at.
Cool. We got one in from Penny, just saying hi. Thank you, Penny. Yeah, we appreciate that. Thanks so much for joining. That was not quite a question, but we do appreciate you. Feel free to reach out to us if there's anything we can help out with there.
Penny's great. I know Penny.
Cool.
Very good. So Q&A seems a little quiet. I think we will call it. Appreciate everybody's attendance today. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Yeah. See you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.